Hey everybody, it's Ryan. Thanks for downloading today's show. And just a reminder, as always, Wake Up War Chant is brought to you by our friends at For the Table, Madison Social, Central and Township, in the heart of College Town. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, from Tallahassee to Thomasville and from coast to Atlantic coast, it's time to Wake Up War Chant here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, and it's a very happy Friday morning, November the 17th to you and yours. You're currently listening to the voice of Ryan Kelly. I'm the director of digital media at warchant.com. Drew not with us just yet. It's a typical Friday show. He's going to join us a little bit later. Gene Williams is going to join us a little bit later. Michael Langston's going to join us a little bit later. There's a lot of content for it to be a Friday against Delaware State, so that's all sorts of good. But before we do that, we, of course, have to say thank you to you, and thanks for waking up with us here at 6 a.m. on 97.9 ESPN Radio or streaming over your devices, the WTSM app, TuneIn Radio app, podcast, iTunes, Podcast Republic, YouTube. You have a place by now. You probably have your place. You've had it for a while. And if you do, rate and subscribe. It always helps us out, and we appreciate when you do that. radio@warchant.com is your email address. @WakeUpWarChant is your Twitter handle. And, of course, we can't do any of this without our friends at For the Table, Madison Social, Central, Township, all there in the heart of College Town. So it's the Florida State Seminoles and the Delaware State Hornets doing battle at Doak Campbell Stadium, if you can even call it that. But, of course, I think the real storyline of this is Florida State, it just finally gets a game and a Saturday where its fan base, I think to a certain extent its team, just gets to roll in and say, you know what, we're going to win this game. No questions asked. Let's just stay healthy and tune up for the game that really matters, and that's that game against Florida, because it means the world if you're going to a bowl game. But, of course, the big questions aren't about this season. The big questions are about the seasons beyond that. The chatter about Florida State and Jimbo Fisher. Of course, regardless of if coach stays or goes, there's so much chat about the assistant coaches. Who's still here? Who isn't here? How does all those pieces figure it out? And, of course, nobody's more connected than the boss man himself, Mr. Gene Williams of warchant.com, the founder administrator of our website, who hops on board the Skype-line. Gene, how are you, sir?
Hey, pretty good, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm all right. So let's hop in and let's start right away. We've talked about it a little bit on this show because, of course, the first thing people want to know is who's even here to hire a staff next year. But what's the latest on those Texas A&M rumors? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's nothing really new. I know this week that, War Chant had it about a month ago, but I know USA Today came out with a story that, Fisher might be the leading candidate for that. And everything we hear, like we mentioned a while ago, that I believe he's on their short list. But I don't think it's got to the stage where he's, an actual offer's been extended. Everything we hear out of Florida State is very positive about Coach Fisher staying put. I know he recently mentioned this, and we've got a big thread going, which we constantly update our subscribers with the latest news and nuggets. I think that thing's got around 50,000 views just in a couple days. So check that out if you're a subscriber. If not, you might want to join in and get some good stuff there. But, as we mentioned in there, Coach Fisher has an outstanding relationship with President Thrasher, and that has really, I think, solidified his position here. He obviously likes Tallahassee. His kids are in school here. They're very happy. So it would take a lot for him to leave. And he's, from what we see, he's got what he's wanted to hear from Thrasher in terms of getting the financial support he needs to make the necessary hires that we believe will occur here coming up in the off season. But, as the old saying goes, everybody has their price. I'm sure at some point Texas A&M could give him a ridiculous offer and he'd say, that's just too much. I have to go. I don't know. I can't get in their heads. I don't know what they're going to do if they do offer Fisher, but absent something crazy, I really think he's going to stick around.
Let me ask you a completely subjective question, Gene. If Eric Barron is still the president of Florida State, is Jimbo Fisher its head coach right now?
Jimbo Fisher would be at LSU right now. I'm 100% convinced of that. And that's every time these things have gotten shaky, he's been able to sit down with President Thrasher, and they've been able to see eye to eye. They get along very well. They work together well. And it was no secret he did not get along well with Eric Barron. Eric Barron did not have athletics wasn't a priority, and that's fine. That's the way he ran things, and it wasn't a very productive relationship. So that because of that relationship now with Thrasher, that's made Coach Fisher very comfortable, and that's why he's still at Florida State.
All right, Gene, we'll move it on. Regardless of if Fisher stays or goes, there's going to be some new staff hires, and well, there's been rumors all over the place that it could be small, it could be large. But what are you hearing about just how much of a turnover there's going to be once that final game is played, whether it's against ULM or if it's a bowl game?
Yeah, this is, again, one of our things in the coaching nuggets that we have up on the Tribal Council. We go into a little bit more detail what we're hearing about the change. And let's just say, without giving away everything, but let's just say I think a significant portion of the staff, there's going to be a lot of turnover, probably more than half of the current assistant coaches will be gone. But also keep in mind that the NCAA has permitted now a 10th assistant coach. So part of those changes will be the addition of another coach. And it's very interesting to me. I think they're going to find out and wait until whoever they hire at defensive coordinator to figure out what they want to do. They want to have a defensive coordinator who may be more of a coordinator and maybe not quite as involved in a certain position, and then bring in another coach to, let's say, coach cornerbacks. And people forget a lot of times when Mickey Andrews was at Florida State, he was a defensive coordinator and cornerbacks coach. Well, they usually had a GA, whether that was James Colsey or someone else coaching the safeties. So you never know how that's going to shake out, and it opens up a lot of possibilities with that 10th coach. But at the end of the day, to answer your question, I think we're going to see a rather significant overhaul of this assistant coaching staff, of course, starting with that defensive coordinator. I think that's kind of the key, and I think everything will flow from there.
So that being said, I'm not going to ask you to give a whole lot of names that you've heard throughout, but come on. This is, let's be honest here. Everybody wants to know who's on the short list for defensive coordinator. Yeah. Just give me a name or two. Let's just feed the beast a little bit.
Well, it's interesting. If you go on War Chant, it should be up now. If not, it will be shortly. We've got our first defense coordinator hop board. This is a lot of work I put in, talking with a lot of sources, and I've worked with Ira, who's been around forever, and a lot of sources, and very interesting when you start researching these guys, and a lot of common themes. There's different things. Really, the two things that jumped out to me when we created the list is, one, these coaches at some point cross paths with Jimbo Fisher? That's part of it. Have they been through the Saban tree? We've seen that before. That seems to be an important criteria for Coach Fisher's. They've gone through kind of that Saban tree that we've seen, obviously, with Jeremy Pruitt or coaches like that. And there's the other thing you look at. A couple of these guys, you got to remember, Charles Kelly was not necessarily the first choice. And there are a couple of guys that were very high on Jimbo Fisher's list when Jeremy Pruitt left that for whatever reason they were not able to hire. And some of those guys are kind of maybe available right now, or could be in a position where they may want to jump ship to Florida State. So, based on that, we came up with a list and kind of broke it down to guys we think are primary candidates, some guys that are right there on the edge, and then some guys that are probably more like long shots or fallbacks on warchant.com. So check that out. I'll say the one guy we've had out there for a while, so it's not really a surprise, is Kevin Shearer, who is a linebackers coach at Georgia. He's been there for a while, both with Mark Richt and now with Kirby over there coaching. He's very highly regarded, and it's amazing if you go back and look at his history, how he is almost a shadow of Jeremy Pruitt. Everywhere Pruitt's gone, he's gone. They were both at Hoover High School. They both were defensive coordinators there. They were both quality control guys at Alabama. They both, coached at Georgia. So they've really followed a very similar path. Very good recruiter. So I think he's definitely one of those guys, and you again read it on War Chant, that's on that short list of guys. But I hear there's probably 3 or 4 guys that are primary guys that Coach Fisher has that he's zeroing in on. And now it's just a function of vetting them, see who you can get for what price, who's willing to come over quickly. Because I don't know if a coach wants to wait through the bowl game with that early signing period. I don't know. Do you want to be able to sacrifice maybe a lot of defensive recruits to hold off for a guy for another month? So there's a lot of interesting criteria that Coach Fisher has to look at when making that hire. But I'll say one thing. I do not think that money is going to be a big object. That's one of the things I believe that Coach Fisher is able to come to terms with President Thrasher, and that is getting a healthy budget to make the necessary hires, whether it's defensive coordinator and all the other spots that could be open.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot to digest here. But, of course, stick with warchant.com. And by the way, if you want that premium access, warchant30 is the promo code that gives you 30 free days. Boss Man, you'll join us in a bit for Lucky 7, of course, with Drew joining us. But when we come back, Michael Langston's going to be with us to talk a little bit of recruiting. It's all on the other end on Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Recruiting chatter time here on Wake Up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio, brought to you by your friends at For the Table. Of course, with so much in the air about Florida State's future and really the future of most of this coaching staff, there's a lot of moving parts, but even so, Florida State offers another quarterback yesterday for the 2018 class. So we bring aboard Mr. Michael Langston, the senior recruiting analyst of warchant.com, to get his thoughts on that and more. Michael, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic, man.
All right, so let's start it off just like this. There's a new 2018 offer. I already said that. His name is James Foster. What more can you tell me about this quarterback?
Well, he's a very, very athletic, mobile guy, which, Jimbo always likes, and he's a guy that, you watch him, he's got a good velocity on the football. I mean, he's got, his good touch and certainly can, seems to be able to read the field pretty well. He's a guy that, gives you more depth if FSU is fortunate enough to possibly pull him. So, he certainly fits the Jimbo Fisher mold of guys they like and what they like, and his knowledge of the game, and very he's got a great understanding of seeing the field. So I think that's really caught their attention. Why they decided to go ahead and jump on board and putting their name out there as far as an offer. And FSU's always been an offer that James has wanted. I mean, he knows about Jimbo Fisher's skill set as far as developing guys, and he certainly he fits the mold of the type of quarterbacks that fit Jimbo. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see pretty quickly he sets up an official visit. But certainly it throws them heavily in the mix with teams like LSU and Missouri, who he's shown pretty solid interest in as well. So I think it certainly puts their name heavily in the mix now.
You mentioned it, Michael, an athletic guy, 6'3", 188, three-star dual-threat quarterback out of Montgomery, Alabama. James Foster was committed to Mizzou for a time, no longer committed to the Tigers. But when it comes to Florida State, I know you've put it on the boards and you've talked about it a little bit. This was certainly an offer that it seems like James Foster wanted.
Yeah, he did, and he's always mentioned, how FSU is kind of coming at him hard, and they're showing a lot of interest, and I think he's very intrigued with, what Jimbo does with quarterbacks, how detailed he is, how detailed in the small things, and just it's kind of the history of what he does when quarterbacks are there. I mean, Christian Ponder, first round pick, was only a 3-star. I'm sure they've used that, as far as, their credibility, which is basically, a lot of people won't remember that. Like, Christian Ponder came in as a 3-star quarterback. And, and Jimbo Fisher turned him around into a first-round pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, his career didn't work out in the NFL, but it kind of tells you what he's done with him to kind of put him in the limelight of being a first-round pick. But so I think that really intrigues James, and it also intrigues him just on their quarterback situation. You have DeAndre Francois. You don't know, the exact timeline on when he'll be back, but it sounds like he'll probably be back some point next year. And then, but he's basically, you can see him playing a year and be gone. And then with James Blackman, he's had an up and down year, but so you just don't, there's not a lot of certainty or a lot of depth there. So if you get a guy like that, he can come in there and learn everything. And I think he sees what Jimbo does, and you add all that stuff together, it certainly has intrigued, James Foster a lot.
So that being said, another guy that's in the mix now for the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State's starting a true freshman at quarterback, Michael. I don't know if you know that. There's this kid named James Blackman that we talked about quite a lot last year and how Jimbo Fisher and company liked his upside. But he's still a true freshman, and he's still starting. Of course, Bailey Hockman's on that staff.
Yeah.
J.J. Cosentino is going to be there in the future. DeAndre Francois is still going to be healthy. But the thing is, how much work does Florida State need to do to be up to date on their actual quarterback depth? Or is this just a freak thing where when you get Hockman another year, when you get Francois back, you're going to feel good about your numbers?
Well, I think everyone's like, well, he hasn't done really good with quarterback recruiting. But the thing is, you got to remember is, you had a 5-star in Malik Henry, and then you had a really high 4-star in DeAndre Johnson. Both of those guys did stupid things that got them off the field, away from the field, that put them in this position. Like if they had those two guys, we wouldn't be talking about this conversation. It's like, you would have several options, but they don't. And so they're having to, adjust kind of their game plan. But I think mainly they needed, to come out. If you get a 2018 guy you're sold on, like, if you were able to pull a James Foster, it's great. But they're still going to top 2019 guy next year. And I think if you get a guy like Foster and then you add, a 2019 guy, I think you're pretty good. The main thing is, I've said this on the board many times. It's like, everyone wants to put the blame on James, but it's like they have so many offensive issues. Like they have an offensive line that's underperformed. They have receivers that consistently run wrong routes, and then you're asking a true freshman to come in there and run the offense. Like that's a lot to ask a guy, to put him in that position. So I think James is going to be fine. I think people just need to be patient with that stuff. But the main thing is they have to fix the offensive issues.
Michael, let's move on because fixing those issues, I think a lot of people think, is going to involve a big changing of the guard when it comes to the staff here at Florida State. There's talks that as many as 6-7 guys can get turned over. There's talks that just 2-3 guys can get turned over. But regardless of what you're hearing, a staff shakeup is coming. And I know you and I did a piece a little bit earlier about commitments and how they feel about this. Because regardless of these assistants going or leaving, there's still a recruiting class that has to get signed on National Signing Day, and even then, there's now an early signing period. So at surface value, what are recruits saying about this shakeup at Florida State? How do the commitments feel about their commitments at the moment? And you've seen this a lot of times. How is this holding pattern for these recruits and their families when they're uncertain about a place that just a couple months ago they were certain enough to tell a coaching staff that, hey, I want to come here?
Well, I think the misconception of fans, and, this is mainly because, you're speaking on emotion, is, they think the bad season is a reason why they're in this position. It's like most of the recruits, if not all of them I've talked to, the season doesn't really bother them that much. It's the uncertainty of who's going to be there and who isn't going to be there. Because, a lot of times, people are like, well, you shouldn't commit to a coach because, you're committing to the program. Say, yeah, but that guy's going to coach you for 4 years. It's like if your trick is not there and you've been developing a relationship for 3 years, and they bring in a new guy, it's gonna have an impact to some degree on a kid making a decision because you don't know, how good that guy is. So it's going to take time. And this early signing period is usually, I would say a good thing for FSU. But this year, I don't think it's really a good thing for them because they're having to rush. And if they do make these changes, no matter how many they are, they're going to have to get these guys in there so they can develop these relationships and kind of show what they're going to do, how they're going to use them, and more importantly, how comfortable these players are with, that coach, personality-wise or just, how they feel about him. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to this stuff. And, I think obviously Charles Kelly's the one that's most involved with when you look at all the top targets and just in my opinion, it would be beneficial to have Charles there in some capacity. It doesn't, obviously, if he's not DC, just to have him there in some capacity will help ease the blow. But it's going to have an impact either way. But most of the recruits have been very positive. We did a piece just yesterday, about a lot of them feel pretty firm about where they stand, but you could also tell like there's a little nervous anxious to see what's going to happen with these possible changes if they do, because I don't think the recruits per se know what's going to happen yet.
Yeah, I know even in your article, just to give a little bit away, give a free taste of that, I know most of the recruits you talked to said that they have not heard anything about who will be going, who will be staying, who the new people might be. Now, that could be true or not. I mean, they could just be playing the game there, but the point still stands.
Right.
If recruits know something, they sure as heck aren't saying anything about it.
Yeah, they aren't, and I mean, I've dealt with these guys I've established relationships for these guys for 2-3 years, and just about most of them are pretty genuine. So I think unless they're just flatline, which, I mean, you can just see just little things they tell you if they have an idea, but I think they generally don't know, which, makes sense. I mean, you're not going to tell somebody unless, the changes are in place, and everyone's like, man, they should just fire Charles Kelly now and put somebody in as an interim. It's like, if you fire your Charles Kelly now, that's going to just make it even more chaotic. If that was your plan where you want to make a change, that just makes it even more chaotic, because then unless you're hiring somebody right now, it means nothing. So people need to understand to be patient with this stuff. And it's like, Gene said that changes are going to happen and people have to be patient with that, but it's a process, and obviously it's going to have an impact either way. Could be major or it could be slight. It just depends on, we're at to wait and see what the reactions are going to be from the recruits when it does happen.
Michael, good stuff as always, my friend. Always appreciate having you on to talk a little recruiting.
You got it, man.
All right, ladies and gents, when we come back, it's the Lucky 7 and over-unders on the other end. It's Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
I want a girl with a mind like a diamond. I want a girl who knows what's best. I want a girl with shoes that cut and eyes that burn like cigarettes. I want a girl with the right allocations, who is fast and thorough and sharp as a tack.
Darn pop-ups and video ads.
Are you wasting your time again on clickbait FSU updates that are bloated down with ads?
Yeah. And after crashing my computer, the information isn't even up to date. You're on warchant.com. What's really going on with the Seminoles?
For the real scoop, you'll need to get your own War Chant subscription.
What's it cost?
Free. There's a 30-day trial offer right now.
You know I like free. Sign me up.
Use the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Nobody has more accurate and timely information on the Noles than warchant.com.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.
Welcome back to Wake Up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio. Time to bring in the boys. Let's make our picks. Let's do over-unders. Let's play Lucky 7 on what is, in my opinion, the hardest week of the year to always do Lucky 7. Gene Williams, Drew Hicken, of course, both on the line. Boss man, we'll talk to you first. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty well. It's nice to have a very low stress. I know you guys talked about it on the show yesterday, but a very nice low stress weekend.
Yeah, it's most certainly been that. And as far as Delaware State weeks go, a decent amount of content between the coaching searches and the hot boards and the recruiting things. There's so many moving pieces to where, listen, you can say whatever you want about this season, but you can't say it hasn't been entertaining.
Oh, yeah. There's not always entertaining in the way you want. Definitely not the way fans want, but there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of last-minute games, a lot of drama going on with all the stuff and the rumors about the coaches and Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M and the assistants. Yeah, it's been a wacky and wild few weeks, and it's probably going to get even more crazy, I think, as we get into December.
Also, of course, we welcome in Drew Hicken, our producer aboard. Drew, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Just Great. Fine, buddy. And, well, this is a fun over-under, to say the least. Because if you look up Delaware State, they're very, very bad. And by the way, I made an error yesterday that I feel like I need to correct. FAMU did not beat Delaware State this year because they didn't play this year. They actually played last year when FAMU was far worse, and FAMU still beat them by 2 touchdowns. So that's really all you need to know about this Delaware State team. And when you look at these over-unders, which, by the way, last week, nobody did too great. Drew batted 500. That was the best of us, 4 of 4. Gene, you went 3 of 5. I went 3 and 5. And you look at these numbers, Delaware State's leading rusher is about 36 yards a game. You've set the line at 75, Gene. So what do you say?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. This is not a very good rushing team. Florida State generally pretty good against the run. I hate even setting it this low, but I'm going to have to go even under this. I just don't know how, unless there's some guys fall down or something and they bust off a couple long ones. I just don't see it. So I got to go under on this.
Yeah, I'll go under here too. Just because also, you got to think that Florida State's going to have the lead pretty quickly in this football game. I don't expect Delaware State to even really attempt to run it a whole ton, but I guess we'll see. The starters probably won't be out there, obviously, the whole game, so maybe they'll be able to get up to 75, but I'll play under.
Yeah, you got to play under. They're so bad. Just in the any of the homework you do, and God bless them for trying and getting out there and getting a scholarship, but boy, they're rough. I mean, I got to play under. Florida State rushing yards, 250. Let's play over. Let's say this is a get-right game for Florida State. Let's say over. Akers busts a couple. His speed's going to keep him. Patrick will get his. Over.
The other thing that worries me about some of this, and obviously if they wanted to rush for 400, they probably could. You wonder if, let's say, they get up 30-0 at half, and then Fisher really dials it down to protect guys for Florida, and they just basically bring in the scrubs and maybe come just short of this. But absent that, I mean, they're definitely going to go over, so I got to take over.
Yeah, same reason why, you talk about Delaware State going under there just because they won't be running the ball a whole ton. I expect Florida State to run the ball quite a bit later on in this game when they kind of pull everybody out and just kind of go into cruise control. I'll say they hit the over.
And I'll also say this, Gene. I wouldn't be shocked if the quote-unquote scrubs still get theirs.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, I could definitely see. Might be a big day for Ryan Green.
Yeah.
Not that I'm calling him a scrub. He's a very good running back, but this is an opportunity for him to maybe get 15 carries in that second half.
James Blackman passing yards, 200. I'll play over. I don't even against Delaware State, I don't feel super on it, but I'll play over.
I'll just go under just for the fact I just don't think you need to have him throw the ball a whole lot. And, maybe that's a situation where they rest him in the second half. So maybe he ends up with about 150, 175. But obviously if Jimbo Fisher wants to throw it around, he could easily throw for 300 plus. I just don't know you want to do that in this game. So I'll go against you there, and I'll go under.
Yeah, this one's tough for me because, like you said, obviously if he wants to throw for over 200, you can. But Florida State's offense so much has been these big old chunk plays where we take these shots downfield, which is why he could get to that 200 mark rather quickly. That being said, I just don't think he's going to play too long. I don't see him playing any longer than 2.5, 3 quarters. So it's hard for me to believe that he'll eclipse that mark in that short of amount of time. I'll play under.
An opportunity for me to get a point up, gentlemen. Well done. Thank you. Derwin James tackles. 6 is the magic number. This one, it's under. This one's under to me. I don't see how many times they're actually going to send a blitz. I don't see how many times Delaware State gets in a secondary for Derwin to worry about things. I'm playing under.
Yeah, he's gone over. He's been definitely improved. Early on, he was having a hard time covering. We've lowered that number a bit, and he's been pretty consistent as of late. But, again, I think when you're talking about a starter, especially a guy that's looking ahead to play in the league, he's going to make a lot of money soon. Do you really want to have him out there for extended reps in the second half? So I think the odds say under on this one.
Yeah, I'll play under here as well.
Gentlemen, we move on. Delaware State tackles. So when you say this, Florida State tackles Delaware State for loss 4 times.
I'm saying how many tackles for loss will Delaware State? Will they get 4 tackles for loss above or below that? I'm saying what they rack up in this game. You go under.
Under.
On that one, huh?
Okay. Under.
All right. I'll go with you. I'll go under. They're going to get a couple now, but I mean, will that number be? Maybe I should have said it at 3, but I'm going to go under as well. But I don't be surprised if they get 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think if you had put it at 3, I would have said push. I think I'll go under here just because 4 seems a little high. I do think they'll get let's not act like these aren't actual human beings out there playing football. I mean, they can get some tackles for a loss now.
A guy can trip in the backfield. You can have a missed snap. I mean, that kind of stuff those 4 can happen pretty easily.
So, but I mean, still, 4 is a little too high. I'll play under.
Gentlemen, we roll along to Logan Tyler punting average. It's 43 yards again.
Bumped it up.
I'm playing under here because I think when he punts, there might be some opportunities for him to punt at midfield, maybe try to hold it back a little bit, pin Delaware State. So I'll play under because I feel like situationally this would be a game where his leg doesn't come in a whole lot of handy.
I'm with you there, and this is going to be limited punts too. I mean, I doubt he punts more than once or twice in the game. You're right. You would think the odds are that this is a midfield type punt. And I'll tell you, it's funny. We've kind of gone back and forth between that 42 and when it's 42 he covers, when it's 43 he doesn't. So with that in mind too, I'll go under.
Just to be different, I'll go over.
Okay.
All right, just trying to differ there. Announced attendance. 60,000. I think I've just gotten to the point where I don't think they're ever going to let it sink under 60,000, so I'll play over.
Yeah, it's one of those, I have to see it to believe it. Will there be 60,000 people there? No. Will they announce? Yeah, I'm probably right. I think they would fudge it just to probably keep it above 60, so I'm probably with you, Ryan. Go ahead and give me over.
Yeah, the announce is definitely going to be over 60. I'm not too worried about that, especially with it being homecoming and whatnot. But again, y'all are right. Will 60,000 people actually be there? I doubt it, but it'll be over announced attendance.
The actual is this because I don't know if Vegas even has this line list. Well, I mean, I guess they have to if we're picking it for Lucky 7.
No, they do not. No, this is not. This is my pure. I've looked. I know you mentioned yesterday the 50, and I saw that on one site when I looked it up, and it linked to a site that didn't have the line. So I don't.
Right,
think
they took it down, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a line out there, so I've just set this at 50 for total points.
Okay, we've set it at 50, but the actual spread is FSU giving 40. So, I think it's, oh gosh, because I don't think Delaware State scores. This might be a spike baseball.
Do you give a spike baseball for Delaware State for an FCS team? I don't know. Maybe a spike golf ball.
Listen, man.
Get Trey Jones out there.
Charles Kelly will get him where he can take him, man. Shoot, gosh, I'll play over. I'm an idiot. Just give me the over.
At the end of the day, this is a team that hasn't hit 30, and like you said, I just don't see, absent a crazy turnover or something, I don't see Delaware State scoring. So I'm going to go under on this.
Yeah, I'm going under here too. I don't really care that it's Delaware State. I don't see this Florida State team putting up 50 points against anyone. I don't see Delaware State putting up more than, maybe 7 to 10 points if things get crazy. I'm going to play under.
All right, gentlemen. So there's some interesting movement, to say the least, in these Lucky Sevens. This slate of games, though, is, well, it's a mixed bag. I think Gene did a good enough job finding the 7 best games of the week. We pick them against the spread. You know what it is. It's Lucky 7.
Now you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
And we will start in Durham, North Carolina. That's where the Blue Devils are getting 6 from the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech. Duke has not played as well as they originally started out playing. Georgia Tech, I think, is better than a touchdown over this team. Give me the Jackets.
Yeah, that line, I don't know. It's at Duke. Yeah, I mean, Tech seems to be playing a little bit better. That triple option seems to be clicking right now, so it's less than a touchdown. So I'm with you. Probably got to go with the Jackets.
Yeah, I'm taking Tech here on that one, too.
All right, so we're all in agreement there. NC State at Wake Forest. Wake is giving a 1.5 to the NC State Wolfpack. Is this a classic Vegas knows game, or are we out of our minds for having Vegas favor the Deacs in this one, Gene?
Yeah, I saw that spread out. I was like, Wake's really favored in this game. And I know they played really well. It just, on paper, NC State has so much more talent. I guess maybe the feeling is that NC State's lost a couple of those big key games that were kind of make or break them. So maybe they're kind of packing in the rest of the year. No pun intended there. But I just can't take Wake Forest, which is basically almost like an even game. I got to go with NC State here.
Yeah, I'll be taking NC State in this one, too. I know Wake has made some major strides offensively, and that defense is no pushover either, but NC State's just a better team. I can't pick Wake to cover that spread.
I'm taking the Vegas bait here because this screams an interesting Vegas nose type line. NC State's let down. They know they can't win the division, and it would be a very Dave Dorn thing of them to go to Snuggy Hill and lose. So I'll take the Deeks. -1.5. I don't feel great about it, but I'd love to get a game up if I can, so I'm going to be a little risky. Texas is going to Morgantown, play the Mountaineers of West Virginia. The Ears are given 3 to Texas in what could arguably be one of the best games of the week.
Yeah, it probably is. You know what? It's going to be a little chilly, I'm sure, up there this time of year. So it's going to be up in Morgantown. Go ahead and give me the Hillbillies in this. 3 isn't a whole lot of points in this one, so I like that spread.
Texas has been covering these spreads kind of all year where you really don't expect them to, but I just don't think that they have the firepower to keep up with West Virginia. I know that defense is much improved as well, but I gotta take the Mountaineers here. We're
in agreement here. I like West Virginia here. You're right. Texas has sneakily stayed competitive with a lot of good teams this season, Drew, outside of course, their opening season thrashing against Maryland. But they've played better. They look like a team that's playing with a cause, but they're just not there yet, especially in Morgantown, late November. I'll take the Mountaineers. The Blazers of University of Alabama Birmingham are going to the Swamp, and the Gators are giving them 10.5. Florida, ever since Urban Meyer's last season, they opened that game in 2010 against Miami of Ohio, and literally ever since then, when they play a non-Power 5, quote-unquote, cupcake game, they almost always seem to struggle with these. Florida looks bad. The Blazers are going bowling. I don't know if the Blazers are going to win this one, but I think they cover the 10.5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that line. It's just too big. It's double digits. You get the little hook there on the 10. I like that. And UAB's not bad. I mean, like you said, going bowling, they're 7-3. This is one that I think it wouldn't even surprise me if they beat Florida. I mean, we've seen how Florida, with Randy Shannon, has not looked good at all. They've looked almost even worse. I know they at least were somewhat competitive against South Carolina last week, but that was probably the last game they really got into. They've got the rivalry game coming up in Florida State the week after. They're probably just ho-hum going into the UAB. But unlike Florida State, this is a legitimate team that can knock them off. So, yeah, I like the Blazers in this one.
Yeah, I'm shocked this line's as big as it is, to be honest with you. This is a Florida team that's demoralized. They're banged up. They've truly given up on this season. We've all seen it. They put up a little bit of fight last week against South Carolina, but not really. I mean, Franks was able to hit Thompson deep down the field to make that game look closer than it was. I really think UAB is more than likely. I think UAB might win this game. 10.5 points is way too much. I'm definitely taking the Blazers.
All right, so we're all in agreement there. Michigan and Wisconsin. Wisconsin is the team that nobody's talking about that's currently undefeated, that literally controls their own destiny to the playoffs and the Big Ten. They'll welcome a team from the other division into Madison, and that's the Michigan Wolverines, who really have been kind of quiet since that Penn State game. They haven't really played any games of note. They have not looked extremely super in any of these, but Wisconsin, given 7.5, the hook is really appealing. I'm going to take the Wolverines.
Wow. Yeah, it's I hate that hook on there. I wouldn't, the old betting in your real life, I would not bet this in my real life. But, I've gone against Wisconsin a couple times and paid for it. I mean, they're playing well. Are they a playoff type team? No, I don't think so. But right now, Michigan is just not even, they're a very average team. I think Wisconsin is a good team. I don't like the hook on there, but if I had to bet, go ahead and give me the Badgers.
Yeah, I'm going to take Michigan in this one. I think this just looks like the scenario where Wisconsin finally gets some respect and gets put at 4 and loses. I really wouldn't be surprised if they dropped this game. I know Michigan's not very good, but you know, that Big Ten is so up and down. You don't really know what to expect. A 7.5 is probably too much. I'll take Michigan.
The Canes are at home in a high noon kick against the Virginia Cavaliers, 19.5. I think Miami has proven that they're legit. I think Miami's going to win this game comfortably by about 17 or so, but I like Broncos defense enough to keep that spread in there, so I'll take the Hoos to cover.
Yeah, here's one where Miami's coming off two huge wins. Virginia's not bad. I mean, they've been pretty competitive in a lot of games they've played, especially as of late. So I like that because that is just 19.5 is a lot of points. I can see Miami winning by a couple touchdowns, but no, I don't like that at all. So go ahead and give me the Hoos.
Yeah, I'm taking Virginia here too. I think Miami will probably come a little bit back down to the stratosphere, you know, the earth today. I don't really, you know, I do think that they've proven quite a bit the last 2 weeks. I was shocked that they beat Notre Dame, especially the way that they did. I do think that they're a playoff type team, I guess. I think they'll give Clemson a lot of problems, if not beat them, but I do think that they'll probably only win this game by about 14, maybe a little bit more, 17 tops. I'll take Virginia.
Yeah, and I think for all three of us, this is less not a vote of confidence in Miami and more a vote of
too many points.
It's too many points, and on top of that, Broncos got a really good defense. They buy in. Virginia's not a bad team. They're going bowling. And, well, I just can't wait to see what Miami fans put in the YouTube comments of this, because it's always fun on Friday to see what they do. Hi, Canes fans. We see you. Congrats on the season. Have fun. All right. Finally, that leads us to our game. It's a 40-point spread for this offense, which must mean the Delaware State game is here. The Hornets are rolling into Tallahassee, and this is a game that, listen, before we even make our picks, I think for the sanity of this fan base, it's important that you cover this spread.
Well, it's my spread, so I don't really know if they care about that they cover my spread. I think they need to win decisively. I mean, if you go out and struggle a little bit, even for like a quarter and a half, I think it's really going to piss some people off. This is not just an FCS team. This is a bad FCS team. So, I mean, I mean, let me ask you guys, and I know you're around, Ryan, for this. And is this the worst team FSU's played probably since that Savannah State game with a running clock in the second half?
Has to be. Easily has to be. Another bottom feeder from the MEAC, which, by the way, Savannah State is leaving D1 next year. So if you want a heads up about where that program is. But, I mean, that leaves Delaware State as one of the worst programs in the MEAC. It's got to be. I can't think of anybody that really even comes close.
Man, but 40 points. Again, you know Florida State's going to call off the dogs at some point. But will these second and third teamers who haven't been out there, you know, they play too, and our Florida State second and third team is much better than Delaware State. I took the under on the 50. I'm thinking the score is going to be something like 42-0, so I've kind of gone back and forth. But go ahead and give me Florida State on this one. I think they cover, but I don't think Delaware State's going to score, so that'll allow them to just barely cover.
Yeah, this one's tough. I mean, I think Florida State's the only team in college football who hasn't covered a single spread all year, which is just absolutely insane, but believable when you've watched this team play. This one's tough, man. 40 points is a lot. I do know Delaware State's terrible. I'm going to take Florida State just because I think Jimbo probably leaves the starters out there a little longer than we think in hopes of trying to get the offense some kind of a rhythm going. Maybe a little bit of confidence heading into Florida week. I'll take Florida State to cover.
I'm with you, boys. I'm taking Florida State minus 40 just because they got to do it eventually. This offense has to break through eventually, and especially against a team this bad. I think everything plays well. You get plenty of rest for your starters, and even then, you're able to rack up some points. So, yeah, give me Florida State. Is anybody here really going to be shocked if we're wrong? Probably not, but you know what? It's cupcake week before rivalry week, and this is just about how all these games go. So that being said, thanks so much to both of you gents for joining us. That wraps it up for us. We'll be right back here on Monday with a breakdown of FSU Delaware State and looking ahead to Florida State's matchup against Florida. Mike and Mike's up next here on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.